I'll put it in later. I fix it anyway.
Okay.
There it is.
We can't hear it though.
I know.
Seems like groovy music.
Yeah, I'll put it in the post production. You'll hear it. It's actually a song him and I wrote together
Oh, awesome.
called Free Man.
Yeah.
What's up there, boys and girls? This is the Chris and Mike Show. I'm Chris. He's Mike. Our special guest today is Joseph. He's a rock and roll musician. We're excited to have him here, coming to you live from the We Fix Ugly studios. From installation, renovation, complete backyard creation, We Fix Ugly Pools. In Arizona, does it all. 602-453-2199. So check them out. Tell Brian we sent you. Joe, Joseph, how the heck are you, man?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good, actually. It's been a good day so far.
Thank
Yeah.
you for coming on the show, Joseph. I'm super excited to have a musician on here. So
Actually, I've been enjoying your YouTube videos. So,
Right on.
thank you very much.
Awesome.
He
Yeah,
has been
thank you,
following
thank
us
you.
on YouTube and Instagram for quite a while. So thank you for that. On Instagram, you're talking to me. On YouTube, you're talking to him. So from
Okay.
both of us, thank you very much.
And so give our listeners and our viewers a little bit of story about who you are, what you do, and all that kind of fun stuff, my friend.
okay, what can I tell you? I'm a musician. I teach. I tour. COVID sort of blew the sails out of that, and trying to get back on the road again.
What
But
kind of
Okay.
touring musician? Your own music? Are you a
original
hired
material?
Okay.
I do studio work. I actually played for an orchestra for a while, guitar and mandolin.
And I would like to
Nice.
say, not to interrupt you, but I equally enjoy following you. That's why we know each other so well, because I enjoy all your videos and your tidbits about music, and those things are very inspirational to me. So thank you very much on my behalf as well.
You're welcome. So, but yeah, just music has always been a part of my life. From the time I was a kid, I was born at the time when they used to sing the mass. The priest would come out and
okay.
sing
Yeah.
what we were doing. My grandfathers were both musicians. So yeah, just after I heard the Beatles, I knew I wanted to be a musician. It was Elvis who made me want to play guitar. I didn't realize it was actually Scotty Moore, but I thought Elvis was just totally badass.
Absolutely, we all did.
Okay. So you just dropped something that I didn't know. So Elvis didn't play the guitar?
He played rhythm, but Scotty Moore played all those licks that everybody knows and loves from those songs like Jailhouse Rock and Hound Dog. And the
Really?
cool guitar parts were all a guy named Scotty Moore, because you always had a lead guitar player, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Usually the guy standing up front is your rhythm player. That's not always the case,
Yeah.
but traditionally he's the rhythm player. That was Elvis.
Okay.
But when you watch the comeback special, the '68 comeback special, man,
Yeah.
Elvis tore it up.
He was a great
Yeah.
guitar player. That's
He
why I
really
want to be
was.
careful to say, yes, Elvis played guitar, but Joseph's right. That was Scotty Moore playing all those cool licks on the album.
Now, the comeback special is when it was the one where he's like kind of in
The
like
black
a round
leather suit.
Yeah. Okay. Black leather suit.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. Yeah. Yeah. There's a little bit every now and then I've seen little tidbits of the behind the scenes from that.
I remember
Which,
my
you know,
mother watching it when Elvis died. They played it again on NBC or CBS, and
Yeah.
everybody was so sad. But that was the one that they played, was the comeback special in the black leather suit. So I remember seeing that as a little kid.
Yeah.
I was supposed to see Elvis in '77 when he died. My family was in Maine. I had tickets, and we were in St. Francis, Maine, when we heard that the king had died.
Oh, that's
And I
terrible.
remember Mom and Dad pulled over the side of the road, and my mother started crying, and I was just like, I couldn't imagine it. Elvis is gone.
And so for the youth that listens to us, wrap your head around this concept. There was no social media when Elvis was alive.
No, there was not.
Nothing.
There was barely
Nothing.
records.
Right, and he was right, and he was known around the world. I mean, that death impacted everybody around the world because everybody knew who he was or knew the name. Whereas now,
So, what's crazy is when I've toured. Now, I give online lessons. I've got students in India.
really,
Yeah, it's crazy. I got a banjo student in India,
right on.
and he asked me. I've got these people asking me if I can teach them Elvis music still.
That's
Nice.
awesome.
Yeah. What amazes me is so many of my students, young kids, we're talking like 15, 16, 17.
Okay.
They want to learn music from the 60s, 70s, and 80s.
I
I
love to
kind
hear
of
that.
yeah, and I could kind of see that because music back then was it was I don't want to slam it, but it was more genuine, right?
Yeah,
You had to pick up the instrument and play. It wasn't all computerized and AI, like the crap you can do now. AI. Oh, you see these ads pop up. Oh, hear yourself sing Alice in Chains, your own voice. What? No,
Let me
no.
ask you, not to interrupt you, Chris, but
Yeah, it's
I
okay.
like where you went with this. Let me ask you
Yeah.
this, Joseph, because for the ladies and gentlemen who are listening, Joseph is a real musician. He understands music theory. He teaches you what you need to know. I play by ear, and I know what people want to hear, but I don't know why, right? I couldn't explain a lot of the theory behind it. I just want people to understand that's what fascinates me about you is you understand the theory and can teach it. Would you not say that with all the advent of the digital age, all this quantizing, snapping it to the grid, takes away from the feel of the music, correct?
absolutely. Absolutely, it does. And I tell people all the time, because yes, I'm an educated musician. I went to school for this. Okay, I played with an orchestra.
I can tell.
I was a hired gun back in the day, actually wrote a book, taught
Oh, what's
music.
the book? What's the book? What's the book? What's the plug your book, Joseph?
Oh, okay. It's called Creative Guitar. You can find it on Bandcamp, Joseph Blaud at Bandcamp.
Okay.
Uh,
But so if somebody Googles your name and says creative guitar, they're going to find it.
yep.
Okay, cool. Yeah, well, this is all about. You've watched us enough now that you know we're conversations. We're not interviewing, but anytime you have something you want to share that's relevant to who you are and can help promote yourself and/or your product, by all means, man, share it.
Oh yeah, plug away.
Yeah.
That's why we're here.
Plug away. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
So creative guitar. That's cool. That's cool. Keep going. Keep going.
yeah, it's the book discusses scales, chords, modes, arpeggios, and I've run into too many teachers. You've got the kid who can strum a couple of chords, thinks he can teach.
Yep.
Okay,
Oh,
he can get you started. Okay, but he doesn't know technique.
right.
So he's going to limit his students. Okay. I've got teachers who are more concerned about keeping you around for the next 10 years. I'm more interested in teaching you in such a way that you can teach yourself
Yes.
and you're going to become a great player. There's always going to be someone to replace you when you
I can
leave.
get you going probably 40% of the way that you can get somebody going 90% of the way, right?
Yeah.
So I can teach somebody, I know where all the notes are, I know your basic scales, your basic chords, I know what it takes to control an amplifier at max volume, so I can teach you technique. These are all things that Chris and I have talked about. There's levels of being a musician, right? You start off, you're a student, obviously. Then you play, practice in your bedroom, like you said. Hopefully you get good enough to teach yourself. Then you join a band and you're playing in the basement, and you might get lucky enough to play some parties, right? Then you're standing at a pizza joint, on a Saturday night and playing for two people.
Yeah.
And then you get to the point where you were playing with an orchestra, right? That's the
Yeah.
real deal. You're a paid musician at that point. A lot of times you're a union member. That's as good as it gets.
Yeah.
When you get to that point, your technique has to be spot on. And people don't understand what it takes to control an amplifier at a very loud volume without annoying everyone that's there.
Right. Right. Well, I tell you what was funny. And then Sonny Schrock always said you need a balance of both. You need to know your theory, but you also have to have a feel for the music.
Correct.
Okay. I played in an orchestra with a guy named Joe. He was a phenomenal player. You could drop a piece of music in front of him, he nailed it. Okay. I'm
Really?
a slow reader. I'm just going to be honest. He nailed it.
Wow.
Pull the page away.
Couldn't play a note.
He couldn't play a note. He couldn't
Really?
even remember what he just played.
Wow. Wow.
You know,
That is crazy.
I know it. I never understood that. How can you play it
Right.
from the page, but you don't internalize it?
And yeah, you don't retain it at all.
Because his brain associated muscle memory with looking at those notes on that staff.
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah. And how sad was that?
Pretty sad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just jammed for 20 minutes while I was waiting. We had a little transition, obviously. So while Chris went and did his thing, I picked up my guitar and wrote a couple songs. Just came to me out of the universe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
And
love
you
that.
have to be open to that, man. I tell people all the time, music theory is just a roadmap to get somewhere. You know, I'm going to give you a great Chet Atkins quote. Chet Atkins had created the Nashville sound. He had created country music in my mind, country guitar.
I agree.
He then went to college and studied guitar. The unfairness of it all is he came out better than when he went in. And I just think that was just not cool because he was already phenomenal. Okay, but so he comes out and someone asks him, so what did you get from college? He said, the knowledge that I could have saved myself 30 years of trying had I just gone to college in the first place.
Oh,
So, yeah, we all come to the same conclusions. It's out there,
Right.
yeah,
you know, but how do we get to it?
sure.
You know,
Yeah.
but yeah, you know, I want my students. Joe Pass. I took a master class with Joe Pass,
Okay.
and we had this one guy. He was like, "Hey Joe, I practice like 23 and a half hours every day. I take my food intravenously. I sleep for like 12 minutes so I can just keep playing guitar." And I know what just went on and on about how much he practiced.
Yeah.
Because what can I do to get better? And Joe said, "Get a life. Put the guitar down. Go out and meet a girl. Go smell the roses. Go."
Yeah.
You know.
Experience.
was-
You got to have experience, because the best songs are written based on an experience you've shared with someone, or you've gone through yourself. Otherwise, it's just stale and stagnant and boring.
That was actually the best advice I got too. I had one of my teachers tell me the same thing. It's a given that you have to be able to play if you want to be in a band, right?
Yeah.
So it's the life's experiences that you're going to have to draw from that's going to make you unique next to the
Right.
guy who's playing next to you, right?
Right.
It's those experiences that make you Joseph and you Chris and me Mike, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
I have my own personality on a guitar. I'm sure you do too. Chris has a very unique voice. People don't forget it. That's why they came back.
Yeah, and you know, playing a song. I don't play any song I do like the original artist.
I love that.
I'm not. I don't bend strings. Okay, I'm a jazz guy. You know.
I'm a
I-
bender.
Yeah.
I'm
I
a
use-
bender.
I use really heavy strings, and we would do the song "Stairway to Heaven." Okay.
Okay.
I don't do that. Cool. Bam. Better. I slide into it. Okay. This is my
Really?
Sorry. This.
Oh, right on.
Do,
You know.
do the first part of that again. That was badass. See, I love that. You stayed true to the intent, but you played it your own way.
Yeah.
That's
and
fantastic, man.
If you ever watch Jimmy Page, he does it that way too. I mean, he does the bend, but I saw an interview with him. He said he did not realize that he wrote an iconic riff. Said the first time they played that song and he didn't do the bam, ba-da-da-da-da, said the crowd was visibly disappointed.
Really?
Absolutely, because that's what sucks you into the solo.
Yeah. So he said that, so I had to go back and learn the song.
Says from the guy that wrote the song. That's crazy.
Yeah, one
Yeah.
of the greatest ever for sure.
Yeah, but he did like 10 or 15 takes before he heard one that he liked. He goes, yeah, that's the one we'll use.
That's cool. That's
Yeah.
a good story. So,
And to me, what makes it even greater is, you know, I tend to sit down and write things down.
okay.
Okay? I get some things, I get an idea, and I'll write it in my head, and then I'll eventually write it down on paper. Okay? Man, these guys, and I improvise, okay? I do improvise. I don't want you to think I don't. I go into the studio, I record the song. Everything after the primary melody is all just improvisation.
Right on.
Okay? But, man, to just go in there and just these iconic, you know, he uses the pentatonic scale. He's not jumping into altered dominance. He's not using Mixolydian. He's doing this with the pentatonic scale.
I've noticed that about him too.
Okay,
Yeah.
so for those people that are listening and watching that will listen to this, what is a pentatonic scale?
It's only 5 notes instead of 7 plus the
Okay.
octave.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So the major scale is 7 notes plus the octave. So we'll say you have 8 notes to play with on a normal, what we all consider as musicians a normal scale.
Okay.
The pentatonic scale is only 5 notes. It's like the blues scale, most people
Yeah.
would call it.
Okay, good. Now, you referenced the studio musician, all that kind of jazz, Joseph. What kind of, how long you been playing guitar to begin with? We kind of
Yeah.
didn't really talk about that.
I actually got my first guitar lesson in 1973.
Okay, I was
That's the
3 years
year I was
old.
born.
I was
I was
3.
born.
I joined my first band, a punk rock band called Tropical Skin Disease.
I love it.
Yeah, in 1979.
That's
And then, of
sick.
course, I went to college, studied. When I was in college, in the 80s, I started playing, uh, you in small classical groups. I started learning classical guitar
Okay.
and jazz guitar. So I'd say technically I've been playing since, I'd say professionally since about 1980.
That's
And
awesome.
Okay.
I
Cool.
got to work with bands like the Platters,
Nice.
got to work with America, and all
Wow.
these guys are such really cool guys.
Yeah.
So yeah, being a hired gun was a lot of fun. The bad thing is there's even a movie called Hired Gun, and some of these guys are bitter because they thought, well, when I'm done, they're going to hire me to be with them all the time. I'm going to be part of the band. No, you got a paycheck, bro.
Let me tell you a
Yeah.
quick story, Joseph. One of the saddest things I ever learned, and it was within the last 5, maybe 10 years. One of my favorite solos in the world is the solo on Train Kept a Rollin' from Get Your Wings by Aerosmith, and that
Yeah.
is neither Brad Whitford nor Joe Perry. That's two studio musicians, and I cannot
Yeah.
remember their name, and everybody's screaming right now. It's these two guys. I just can't remember their names, but it was so sad to me because I always thought that badass solo that was one of my favorite ever was Joe Perry, and he just wasn't up to snuff at the time to be able to cut the solo.
Yeah, that's what I got hired to do a lot of times. They need a mandolin player, banjo player, a bass player, whatever. They would, you know, and it's funny how many people came in to do their song, and you don't get the credit, and I don't care. But that kind of a funny story with Glenn Campbell. Okay, the song Rhinestone Cowboy was released before Glenn Campbell, but he made it a hit.
Sure.
He said, "Yeah, because I believed in the song." And that's
Right
what
on.
made the difference. He said, "I believed in the song."
Just like Jimi Hendrix and All Along the Watchtower.
Oh, absolutely.
Nobody knows Bob Dylan wrote that song unless you're a big Bob Dylan fan or you're a musician, right?
Yeah, that's right. And again, there's some songs that the remake. And I appreciate Dylan. I love Dylan.
Me
Okay,
too.
but man, Hendrix's version of lots of his version of Hey Joe, it's the definitive
Absolutely.
version.
He made it his.
He made it his. So
And the funny thing about Hey Joe, every time I meet someone named Joseph, I want to be like, Hey Joe, you're going that gun in your hand.
And I always say, I bet they never heard that one.
Right.
Let me ask you this. What do you think it is? Because we went down a road where there's a lot of musicians who can play live and they're good enough to do that. But when they get in the studio, they freeze. I've never really understood that. I didn't really have that. I just play. So timing is timing to me. I don't really care where I'm sitting. I might have to do a couple takes of it. I might have to do 20 takes of it, but I'll get it. What do you think it is that makes people just, when the record button goes, they can't perform?
it's because we know it's going to be there. I do much better
Oh.
live than I do in the studio.
Well, I think everybody.
I yeah, I
Yeah.
agree with that.
I would
Because-
agree with that.
Because you're feeding off the crowd, you're feeding off the energy,
Right.
you're seeing the faces and the looks and the
Peter,
smiles.
Peter
And the,
Frampton.
yeah.
Listen to Peter Frampton's studio albums.
Terrible.
Oh,
Do you feel like we do?
Yeah.
Do you feel like we do? No,
Listen
I really
to Kiss's
don't.
studio albums
Yeah.
versus their
Yeah.
live albums.
Yeah, same thing.
Can't do it.
Yeah, Peter Frampton, man, Kiss, they need to be in front of an audience, man. Their live stuff is the best, hands down. So, but it's funny because Pete is even worse. He's like, I don't understand. So,
what kind of bands have you toured with, Joseph?
country bands, rock
Okay.
bands, blues
Okay.
bands, jazz groups.
Mostly
drop.
Canadian or United States or
Actually, a lot of American bands.
Okay.
Yeah.
Best experience on the road with a band?
Wow, there was a couple of them. Actually, I did the Taylor Road show with some really good guys. We would whine and complain the whole time about playing. Then we get back to the motel room. We start playing guitar together. The guys in I learned a lot from Jerry Beckley and Dewey Bunnell
Okay.
with the band America.
Okay.
They talked about how we're indebted to our fans.
Mm.
They were just nice guys. I screwed up one time royally on stage.
Yeah.
They just made it a joke.
Oh, nice.
They didn't fire me. They didn't go and beat me up. They didn't push me out of the bus. They just
Right.
it was a joke.
Did they razz you on stage, or was it after the show?
Oh yeah.
Really? Really?
Oh yeah.
Okay, you gotta drop that story, man. That sounds interesting.
Yeah, we're doing "Don't Cross the River," and you know the banjo part, little walk up.
I do.
Uh-huh.
Okay, I got to the part where I'm supposed to be all alone, and I just froze. I didn't know what I was supposed to do.
Oh,
Oh
And
no.
they turned around and looked at me, and I just kind of shrugged my shoulders, and they went back and went, "Don't play the banjo if you don't know the chords."
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's the worst when you're standing on stage and you have that, your brain just freezes.
Yeah.
Which it happens to everybody.
Yeah.
It does.
You're human. You're human, and that's the difference between AI music generation and human music generation.
One thing I'll tell you is a lot of people don't know scientifically, music is one of the only activities on this planet that uses both hemispheres of your brain at the same time. So
Right.
when you're freezing, it's one side of your brain locking up, not knowing what to do. We're not sure if it's the physical or the subconscious at that point, you know. But that's what's happening is 50% of your brain's like, we're not quite sure what's going on at this moment in time.
I did not know that.
Oh yeah, I do crazy research about stuff like this.
Yeah.
Your conscious mind cannot distinguish between playing two different chords. So going from a D to a G, that's all rote muscle memory, right? It's coming from your subconscious, which is why you can talk while you're doing it, you can sing while you're doing it,
Yeah.
you can watch TV. I'm sure while you're practicing, like I do, I'm watching TV all the time, right? Just
Yep, I
listening to
sure-
what's going on.
Sure do. And I encourage my students to do that because I
Me
want
too.
it to be second nature.
How many students do you have right now, Joseph?
Right now, I've got about 40.
Wow. And how many of those are online?
Actually, online, I've got 11 students online.
Okay. Okay. Okay, that's cool. So the 40 that you have face to face, they're all where you're at in Canada. Okay.
Yeah.
What
Actually,
part of Canada?
I'm in Oklahoma.
Oh, are
From
you?
Canada, but
Oh,
I'm now in Oklahoma.
okay, cool. So
Wow.
how's that's
All right.
that's a dramatic change from Canada to Oklahoma.
Yes, it is. Very dramatic.
Explain that transition.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But, you
Share
know-
that journey.
Yeah. Actually, I've been around for a long time in the States. My father used to work for NASA.
NASA?
NASA.
Wow.
Yeah. Did
Don't-
you ever see the movie Apollo 13?
Absolutely, about
yeah.
10 times.
So my father was one of the 11 men that got them down. My father
Oh.
did design work.
Right on.
And yeah, and I've never said, how does a man that smart have a wind-up monkey like me for a kid?
You became a creative intellect, man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
something
exactly.
else. But my father is one of the most amazing men I know. I was having trouble with my car. I had a 2005 Ford Focus. I was driving and getting some problems. I called my father. He goes, "Yeah, I'm having some issues with the car." He goes, "Well, how close are you to home?" I said, 3 or 4 hours. He goes, "Come on home. Let me look at it." Got home, popped open the bonnet. Says, "Turn it on." He listens for a second. I bet it's this. He takes the car apart and he goes over to his bench, takes this part out, and he cleans it up, does some filing on it, puts it back in the car, never had another problem.
Wow.
Okay. But this is my dad. I bought my first car in 1979.
Okay.
My father goes, "Hey, son, let me see the keys." "Sure, Dad."
Uh-oh.
Gave him the keys. Bad decision. Got up the next morning, went out to the car. The body was off the chassis.
Oh.
The engine was on newspaper.
Oh.
And it was literally a brand new, not a brand new used car, brand new car.
Okay.
Said, "I just want to see how it worked." Wow. It's a brand new car. Now, to show that I'm not terribly bright,
Right.
2015, I bought a Honda Civic,
Okay.
brand new, right off the showroom floor.
You gave your dad the keys.
Give my dad the keys, and I went upstairs because my mom and dad, my father had me come to Virginia so we could look at the car, so we could buy the car. And Mom asked, "Well, where's your father?" He goes, "Oh, he wanted to look at the car." He goes, "You know what he's doing, right?" I went downstairs, and sure enough, he's taking the engine apart.
Wow.
To Dad, it's a brand new car. stop now. He goes, oh, I'm just checking out the air filtration system.
But he put it back together, right?
Yes, he did.
Okay, and it still ran, right?
It's still running. It's still.
See,
I gave it to my nephew. It's got over 300,000 miles on
Right
it.
on.
You
Yeah,
got
we had
men
a,
back
we,
from the moon.
Yeah.
yeah, we had a problem with our washing machine one time. So my genius self, I decided to YouTube it.
Yeah.
So I learned there was the video on YouTube that was specifically related to the problem we were having. So my son and I, we took it apart and did what we had to do, put it back together. And I had 3 screws left over. Don't know how, don't know why. It still ran. It ran perfectly fine, but there's 3 screws that ended up being the byproduct of us taking that apart and fixing whatever the issue was. So I'm not that mechanically inclined person either. So luckily, he didn't have you put it back together like that episode on Happy Days way back in the day, right? When Fonzie was
yeah.
blind and then
Yeah.
he took his bike apart and made him put it back together. That would have sucked because then I would have been like, what? I'm not a mechanic, man.
Nor am I.
Jim, can you hold on for 1 second?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Oh,
hold
yeah.
on one second. Be right back.
Yeah, we take breaks all the time, man.
Yeah. We're actually supposed to have a pause button, but
Oh, that would be fun.
I haven't really researched how that works yet.
How
so
that works.
we will just let Joseph have a little break there and tell everybody to go to the YouTube channel and hit that subscribe button and head on over to the Instagram and the Facebook and do the same thing.
Yes, and when you subscribe on YouTube, you're going to get notified every time we drop a new show or a new short.
There you have it.
Which
There you
always
have it.
excites me because I get to go look at them.
Oh, see, right on. Good transition, Joseph.
That's
awesome.
Thank you.
So let me ask you this: you did you released a clip the other day on Instagram. You were doing White Rabbit acoustically.
Yes.
Where was that at?
Yep.
That was a great version. I loved it.
Thank you. We were at a place called Frank's Tavern in Bixby, Oklahoma.
Okay.
See, now that I know you're in
Um,
Oklahoma, I'm like, I can't
Right.
believe these guys are playing Jefferson Airplane in Oklahoma in 2025. I love
Again, people, and we always try to do like unusual things. Every cover band does all the same music. Okay. I want to do something a little
True.
unusual. So we're going to
Yeah.
do White Rabbit. We're going to do Stairway to Heaven. We're going to do Hotel California. You know,
Yeah,
'cause-
but you had to find somebody to sing White Rabbit, so give her a plug because she did a fantastic job.
Dude, Raven is a phenomenal singer. I like the other girl that I did an album with. We did a blues album called Shades of Blues, and I worked with a girl named Nova, who's an amazing blues singer. And we finally got her got her head on straight. But yeah, that album is my first vocal album.
Awesome.
And I'm planning on doing another one, not with me singing. You really don't want me singing.
Me neither.
Yeah, but the other album, in fact, you can see my shirt, Turpentine Creek Wildlife Refuge. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes,
I'm
plug
a-
that for sure.
Yeah. So you know, big in animal aid. You know,
Okay.
I'm not an animal rights person. I don't think animals are just us with fur.
Thank you for that.
Yes.
Okay. But no animal should be abused.
Agreed. 100%.
Okay.
Couldn't agree more.
You know, I mean, to me, cows are cheeseburgers with legs.
Thank you. Agreed.
Okay.
Yep.
And you know, but we don't have to torture the animals.
Absolutely.
You know, I grew up, you know, working on a farm. Not on my farm. Mr. Adams would hire us out, and the Braylers would have us come over and work on their ranch. So I did that kind of work before, and I learned I wasn't good at that because I was there when Pickle was born, and when it came time to butcher Pickle, well, that wasn't a cow, that was Pickle.
See, that's why. Yeah, we live in horse property, and that's one of the things. Like my wife would never. If we got a cow, it would be mute because I couldn't butcher it because she would become friends with the cow.
Yeah.
Like she's not going to grow. She's not going to raise anything that we're going to eventually eat. So I feel you on that one.
Right. So, well, Turpentine Creek, they actually take abused lions, tigers, bears, all kinds of animals. Generally, there are more tigers privately owned in the United States than in the wild.
I do, thanks to Joe Rogan.
Yeah, and you can't take care of them
No, unless
know-
you're Mike Tyson.
unless you're Mike Tyson. Yeah. So the last album I did was called Rescue to Refuge.
Okay.
every dime of that album, and I did all the instrumentation myself, recorded
Nice.
it, paid for it, everything. Uh, every dime from that goes directly to Turpentine Creek. Okay, not to me, to them. It
Yeah.
goes. We set it up so they can go. So there's no chance that I'm going to be pocketing anything from this. I
Right.
didn't
That's
even want the
cool.
appearance that
Yeah.
I might be doing that.
And that's in Oklahoma?
That actually, Turpentine Creek is in uh, Eureka Springs, Arkansas.
Okay.
Okay, and they're fantastic. I've talked to these people for a long time. One of the reasons we support them so much is their goal is to make themselves obsolete. They
Ah,
know that if they can stop the animal trafficking,
sure.
then they're out of a job, and they're okay with that.
That's a
Every
good way
one
to
of them.
look at it.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't
So,
think it can be stressed enough what he said. I'm going to say it again. There are actually more tigers in captivity in just the state of Texas alone than are remaining in the rest of the world.
yeah,
that's insane.
Just in the state of Texas alone.
yeah.
That's
Wow.
the statistic.
Yeah, and I've tried to explain to people, okay, you know, okay, so I'm gonna get political for a second. They're all lying douchebags, okay? I don't care which side of the aisle they're on.
I
Yeah.
couldn't agree with you more. I
They,
think Chris is in the same boat.
yeah, they're all lying douchebags. They tried to get something passed called the Big Cat Protection and Safety Act.
Okay.
The wrong guy was president, so the opposition party made sure it didn't pass.
Ah. See,
Okay?
yeah.
Yeah, the people who are supposed to be, like I said, I'm not naming names here, but the
Yeah,
people
yeah,
who are
you're
supposed
fine.
to be on the side of the animals, well, the wrong guy
Right.
was in office. Okay, when it finally
Well, the
got
people that are just supposed
passed,
to be on the side, and it's the people that are just supposed to be on the side of the people.
Correct.
Politicians
yeah,
are elected officials that are supposed to be a voice for the everyday human being,
Thank you.
not for their own agenda, which is completely turned and flipped that way, which is nonsense because that's why you have countries in such like disarray most of the time because you have it's like you said, it's all about me, 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 me. It's what I want. It's the big beautiful bill. Well, the big beautiful bill is going to make you look stupid, and it's going to affect millions and millions of people, just like Obamacare did. Just
Yep.
right, right.
they never just look
But
at what's good for the person.
we play teams as well.
Yes,
Now,
which is
I,
stupid.
I was a history teacher,
Okay,
and a couple of my favorite presidents. One of them was a guy named John Tyler.
okay.
Okay, he inherited the presidency,
From
and
who?
everyone thought he'd
Because
be
I don't
Nuclear.
recognize John Tyler's name.
Okay, I forgot the year, like 1840,
Okay.
around that time. So he was thrown out of his own party
Oh,
because he would not carry water. He had no party.
okay.
Nobody wanted to be his vice president. His
That's
entire
interesting.
cabinet quit. He kept saying crazy stuff like, well, that's a breach of my authority.
Mm,
Well, that's not in the best interest of the American people.
I like this guy.
that's not crazy.
That's unconstitutional. Yeah, I know. He was, and when he left, he said, well, the American people wanted him back. He goes, no, politics is no place for men of character.
No, it's not. Absolutely agree with you.
And it's,
100%.
it's really not.
That's a
No.
great quote.
And people keep thinking that, oh, I voted for so and so because he's a man of character. Goes,
No, you didn't.
no.
That makes me laugh harder than anything that they actually think that there's going to be a difference.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. Ronald Reagan himself said that no man becomes president by being the good guy.
No, absolutely not.
Another great quote.
No.
That's a great quote. Yeah.
No, because every single president that's ever been a president is a sociopath. They know how to
Yeah.
manipulate the system. They know how to convince you that they're the one. I mean, they're a sociopath, which is just a step away from being a psychopath,
Yeah.
because they can completely control, manipulate every situation they step into. Obama became president not so much of his policies, but because he was a very charismatic speaker.
Yes.
You
was. He
couldn't
was-
help.
Yeah.
One of the
Obama
best
could
ever.
lie better than most people tell the
Right.
truth.
Yep.
Right, because he was a slick oil salesman. You just were captivated by his speech and his speaking, and his public speaking ability was second to none. Clinton could convince you that he didn't have
Yeah.
sex with Monica Lewinsky on his death, that she just went down on him. Really? Because we all know that part never leads to the other. Right? But he
right.
basically convinced an entire country that he did not have sex with that woman and made it okay right? From a
Yeah.
political standpoint, you can have oral engagement with anyone, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Well said.
This is our president at the time, two-term president.
And let's be honest, the way he presents himself, you still want to go out and have a beer with him, don't you?
Right.
Damn right I do.
Exactly. Exactly.
I want to do mushrooms with that guy. Start
Yeah.
talking.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Oh my gosh. And then you have
Yeah.
George Jr., who was basically a fraternity brother who became president, and it's like, it just it blows my mind. Mike and I are not huge into politics, but
really
yeah.
Don't
I'll
have
talk politics with anyone who will talk politics like we are right now.
Right.
Common
Right.
sense.
rationally and
right?
reasonably.
Yeah.
I had
Yeah.
someone tell me once that you can't discuss religion and politics because people don't think rationally; they react emotionally.
I'm glad you said that. I've never heard it put that way. That's
That's
brilliant.
true, though. Absolutely.
But I had a friend of mine, guys playing band with back in the '80s. Okay, our buddy Mikey voted for Reagan.
Okay.
Okay, I shouldn't be using names. Okay,
That's okay.
Because they're going to watch this.
Well, it's okay. Hi,
We had
Mikey.
another friend.
We love you, Mike.
We're playing music together.
Yeah.
He now unfriended him on Facebook.
I hate that shit.
Okay, and blocked him. I was like, why? Why'd you block?
Mm-hmm.
He goes, he voted for Reagan. Yeah, we knew that in 1984.
Yeah.
I just
yeah.
heard a story about a mother and a daughter. It was either a mother and a daughter or a mother and a son. It's a family friend, but they don't speak to each other. It's a friend of a friend, I guess, but whatever.
Yeah.
Their relationship is fractured for like the last 10 years since Trump was president the first time.
Jeez.
They've never spoken to each other since, just simply for the fact that the mother voted the way that the son didn't want. I can't remember which way she was supposed to
You know
vote.
what's
but-
crazy? I've had two friends since 1980. Okay, my friend Sadiq is a Muslim from Afghanistan. Our other mutual friend Namer is a Jew from Israel.
Okay.
Every time I go to the East Coast, we still get together and have coffee. Do you know what we agree on?
Nice.
Nothing.
Human.
We don't even like our coffee the same way. Okay. Sadiq and
Really?
we got into it one time over. He was so excited to have a Muslim president. And I said, well, who would that be? I said, oh, Obama. He went to the same madrasa as my cousin so-and-so. Goes, well, he says he's a Christian. No. He's a, you know what?
It doesn't matter.
Sadiq wants to believe that.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
doesn't
Let him
hurt
believe it.
me.
Right.
Let him believe it.
Yeah.
We're still friends.
Yes.
And we will argue politics, religion, and we'll get loud and obnoxious when it's all done. We're still friends.
Yeah.
Have we not
'Cause we-
forgotten how to agree to disagree?
We have.
Yeah.
Right?
Everybody's forgotten that because everybody just reads the headlines. They just read the clickbait. All the
yeah.
news stories are exactly the same. They got the headline, and you if you click it, you'll realize whatever that headline is, it doesn't make any relevance to the actual article itself. But they have to make you click on it because there's no attention span anymore. You're not selling newspapers, so everything's online.
And like
So-
Joseph said earlier, one of the things that I always commend Chris on, and he commends me on the same thing. Last night, I think it was last night, maybe the night before, we had to have a serious conversation about some serious subjects, right? And it might have taken two other people 2 weeks to accomplish what we accomplished in an hour and 10 minutes, right? Because it's like, I agree with that, I disagree with that, and here's why. Well,
Right.
here's my position, right? And then we'd move on to the next thing. We have forgotten that everybody who's doing what they're supposed to be doing, a productive member of society, you're not hurting anybody else doing what you're doing. You are entitled to your opinion as a human being, right? We all only have one life.
Yep.
That's right.
We're all terminally ill.
Do you really want to
love that.
live in some homogenous dystopian society?
No.
No,
No.
fuck no.
My wife and I don't. I'm a religious Catholic. My wife is an agnostic.
Okay. Oh,
I'm with
interesting.
your wife. I'm
Yeah.
open to possibilities.
That's right. And we talk about things, and she makes fun of me sometimes for going to mass, and I'm okay with that.
Makes you happy, right?
Yeah, because she's totally
do
hot.
No, I mean going to mass makes you happy, right?
Yeah. Go,
Yeah,
yeah.
it-
And
Exactly.
it improves your life, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then you should keep doing that. That's always I'm not a religious person. I have my own views, but I'm careful to say, if that's what makes you be Joseph that's sitting here talking to me, then by all means, keep doing it.
Yeah. I said, there should be no peace in my home, but no, because there's a lot of things we agree on.
Sure.
Actually, both my wife and I both love heavy metal.
Right
Okay,
on.
That's a great common ground. I love it.
my wife looks like she should be teaching Bible study at a Baptist church. She
Oh,
is
right
more metal
on.
than me.
I
That's
love it.
awesome.
Kudos to your wife. I'm friends
Yeah.
with you both already. Now we all have common ground. That's my
That's
go-to
right.
music as well.
How long have you and your wife been married, Joseph?
We've been married for we're going on 6 years,
Right on. And together how long?
8 years.
Okay, right on.
I never thought I'd get married. I was happy single.
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel your love.
Yeah, and it's funny because we ran into each other at Village Inn.
Oh, right
There's a
on.
restaurant here. And I had a book. I was just going in to drink some coffee, have some breakfast, and read. And
Yeah.
she and I started talking. I decided to buy her breakfast.
Oh, nice. So you met in the lobby?
We met in the lobby.
Right on. At the
Yep.
same time you went in to go have breakfast.
Yep.
And
That's a
so who?
great
Okay,
story.
so who approached who first?
Well, she noticed that I had a book. She was on her way to see her doctor.
Okay,
And the doctor said, "Oh, we got to wait a couple hours." And
gotcha.
so she just mentioned, "Because man, I wish I brought a book because I need to
Oh.
kill some time and I don't know what I'm going to do." I said, "Well, have breakfast with me."
Oh, right on.
Yeah,
Great comeback.
Yeah. And then how
so-
long? How long did breakfast last?
2 hours.
See, that's why I asked that question, because if it's meant to be, the breakfast wasn't like a 30-minute thing. It went, and then so a 2-hour breakfast. Where'd you go from there?
I went over to my. She doesn't know this. I went over to
Okay.
see my buddy Jared, and I said, "Dude, I think I met my future wife."
Outstanding, man.
That's awesome.
That's cool.
Yeah, I was
That's a
kind of
great
joking,
story.
but at the same time,
You just knew.
I just kind of knew.
Yeah, see, I have the same kind of thing with Nikki and I. Like, I stopped pursuing chicks and stuff. I was like, I'm just gonna focus on the music. That's it. That's I'm done with women, because I had shaved my head and realized that a bunch of women, at that time in '93, just were shallow because nobody shaved their head, right? And I
Yeah.
looked legitimately like a skinhead. And then had no knowledge of skinheads, but I would wear this red and black flannel, checkered flannel with Doc Martin boots and blue jeans, and shaved head, right? And I have this scowl.
This is
just-
1994.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So it just made me look like, oh, this guy's just mean and evil. And then I met her, and she blew me off for a couple months. But I realized then that we went out, like, okay, this chick's not shallow.
I would have
and-
people at the shows, Joseph, who were afraid to talk to him, and I'm like, he's a big. First off, he's a big teddy bear, and he's a fucking goofball. You
Yeah.
know, he
Yeah.
looks so mean.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, yeah, he does. He looks really mean. He's not.
But yeah, But 30 years, 30 years together, 29 married.
All right.
And we got married a year to the day of our first date. And we actually had the conversation about marriage on our first date. So
That's-
I feel that story that you just, when you know, and it's,
Yeah.
you're blessed to have that. Some people are and some people aren't. It's one of those things. Like my son, he's like, oh, I want a girl from, dude, stop looking. Just let it happen.
Yeah.
Just let it happen organically. It will happen when it's supposed to happen. You know?
See, and what was funny, this is the kind of woman I married.
Okay.
So I've got a couple of condos,
Right.
and I was living in one of them, and I knew that she wanted to live in a house. She didn't want to live,
In a
basically
condo, yeah.
fight apartment life.
Sure.
And so I was looking at places, and I realized, man, I'm not sure I can afford this. And I told her that. She goes, you know what? As long as we're together, that's all I care about.
Nice.
And I said, I'm buying that woman a house.
Really?
And I bit the bullet. I went out. My father, great man.
Yeah.
He actually loaned me half the money so we could just pay cash for the house.
Nice.
And I'm paying him back
Right on.
at a better interest rate than the banks would have given me, like
Sure.
1.9% interest.
Nice.
Like, yeah. So
Yeah,
again,
yeah.
the awesomeness of my father.
Yeah.
But, she didn't care that, okay, so we'll live in your condo.
Your condo, yeah. So did you sell the condo?
No, I still have them.
Okay. So you use the condos as investment properties?
Yeah,
you
I
go.
need to get rid of two of them.
Yeah.
I tell you, man, tenants feel
Oh, I know.
entitled, and they will not pay rent, and they'll have every excuse in the world not to pay rent.
Yep.
And I don't think they realize that I still have financial responsibilities.
Exactly.
And people think because I own properties, oh, you got to be rich. No.
No, people don't understand. Yeah. See, I sell house. I've been selling house 25 years in Arizona, so I get that. You're preaching to the choir, man.
Yeah.
they just don't get it all. And then the struggles we have now is people think, well, rates are going to come back down 2-3%. No, they're not.
Yeah.
They're not. Well, the market's going to crash. No, it's not. It's not. You don't understand. And especially in Arizona, we've not stopped building since World War II.
Wow.
We're not crashing. Like, that's it. It's just we may slow down, we ebb and flows, but it's not. And I have this
It's
argument
always
with
constant
some
growth,
clients.
right? Year over year.
Right, exactly. And the stuff that's being dropped down here in the valley, like we have Chinese and Indonesia building this massive microchip plant in the north part of the valley that is creating thousands of jobs, and they're all educated engineers. They just don't. Well, our market's stale. It's not stale. You don't understand it. So you're listening to the clickbait headline. You're reading that one little headline. Supply outweighs demand, but really it doesn't. I can go on for hours, but I won't bore you with it. But it's the perception of the public thinking because of the clickbait headlines and hearing a little bit of a story and not listening to the rest of it, not reading all of the article.
Yeah.
They ought to make those assumptions, which are so far off center. It's
people also-
insane.
They go to where they're going to hear their opinions.
Yep.
That's so true.
Yeah.
Right.
And I tell you what, I read you talk about, just reading headlines.
Sure.
I saw a headline where a 17-year-old kid died with COVID. And I was going, man, I thought statistically that didn't happen. So I read the article.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Well, yeah, died with COVID. They left out in the headline that he got shot in the heart and kidney robbing a liquor store
While having COVID,
while having COVID. Okay,
which is why he died in the hospital, because
That's
there's
right.
there's not been a single person that died of COVID outside a hospital that's on record. So, but there you go, prime example. Read the article, people, not the headline.
And do your own independent research.
Right,
Another thing
yes.
that I like to say, Joseph, is I will decide what my opinion is, right? You're not going to give me my opinion.
Yeah.
Unless you're my father, maybe. Your parents get away with a couple.
Yes, they do.
But, outside of that, I'm going to decide what I'm going to do, and I will have my own opinion about things. You hit the nail on the head. You can figure out who somebody is by watching their television, for sure, right? If they watch
Right.
Fox News, they're a conservative. If they watch CNN, they're confused. If they watch MSNBC, they're a Democrat. I mean,
Yeah.
there's no
Yeah.
in between. And those people tell them what they're supposed to believe every day.
And
Well, and the
they
other
would
part-
just inhale it, yeah.
The other
Joe
problem with that
Rogan's
too
the
is-
most reputable guy, in my opinion.
He
well,
is
because he tells
it,
he tells it like it is. Go
he
ahead.
tells
Yeah.
it like it is, and like Chris and I, he's not afraid to say he was wrong about something. I always like to say, like he does, I'm not married to any of my ideas. I used to say it differently, but that's a good way for people to understand it. You could change my mind about something that I've thought the same way about for 20 years just by giving me a logical explanation as to why you believe what you believe, right?
Yeah.
I'm that kind of person. I will accept your explanation. It'll rattle around in my head, and it might be 3 minutes, 3 days, 3 hours later, 30 days later, I'll call you up and say, hey, you know what? You were right. And
Yeah.
here's why.
Yep. And again, how do we know what we believe unless we know what someone else believes?
Right.
True. It's a great point.
Yeah. So I consider I've been fortunate, and again, all the different influence traveling. Okay.
Right.
When I play sitar.
Oh,
The guy
right
that
on.
built my
Sitar's a
sitar-
great instrument.
I
man.
always wanted to learn how to play that,
yeah.
man.
Dude, I love my sitar. It was built by the same guy that built Ravi, Anushka, and George Harrison's sitar.
You don't have
Wow.
it there where you can play it, do you?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Damn it, man.
But you can hear it on the song "Sugar in the Raw"
Sugar in the
off
Raw.
the Blues for Skip album. Yeah,
Okay.
Right on.
it was the first time I got to pull that puppy out.
I'd
Okay,
love
so now
that.
you brought up your albums. Where do people find your music catalog?
Actually, I'm on Spotify, Pandora.
Okay.
I'm on all streaming audio.
Awesome.
Okay.
Okay.
Apple Music,
The album I always
Amazon.
tell everyone that they have. Amazon. It's on Amazon.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
And so
I-
all they got to
I-
do is search your name, and it'll pop up.
Yep.
Okay. Cool.
Yep.
Cool.
And,
How many
yeah.
albums have you released?
I think 15.
Okay.
Wow.
And some of them are classical, some of them are new age,
Okay.
a lot of them are jazz.
Okay.
I'm actually talking to you right now about doing a movie soundtrack. So it'd be more
For?
orchestral,
Movie soundtrack for.
just an independent film.
Okay. Right on.
So-
What do you know what the film's about?
No, I don't.
Okay.
The guy just, did you ever see the movie or the TV series, Lucifer.
Yeah.
Yes. Nikki, my
Okay.
wife, loved that show.
Yeah, that was
Oh,
a good
me
show.
too.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, originally that was an independent film called
Oh.
Day Out for the Devil.
Did
Oh,
not
no
know that.
shit.
Yeah.
I did not know
And I talked to the guy because the guy used my father's 62 Vet in the original
Okay. Really?
movie.
Nice.
And so I met the guy. He asked me to write a piece to present as a possible for writing the soundtrack. He went with
Okay.
somebody else. But the last song, the song that I wrote was actually a piano piece called Autumn Suite.
Okay.
And so yeah, I got to play piano and keyboard and stuff and do cool voice things. 'Cause
Right on.
I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, this guy's a lot like Lemoyne. How many instruments
Yeah,
do you
yeah.
play?
Really, I'm only proficient on about 17. Okay.
Oh, well,
know,
this conversation's over. I thought
only-
you really knew how to play. Now, we're
Yeah.
done. We're done.
I'm
If
only
you can't
proficient
play
on
20 or
17
more,
instruments.
then
So
holy
Okay,
crap.
so what can't you
17.
play? What can't you play?
I can play things like trumpet
Okay.
and French horn stuff, but my embouchure's really bad and I'm not real good. On the Turpentine Creek album, The Rescue to Refuge, I have one song that's piano, cello, and flute, and
Okay.
I played all those instruments.
Right on.
But I list myself as average on most of those.
Well, of course you do, because all musicians are humble if you know
Yeah.
if they're true
That's not
What's your
musicians.
top 5 strengths?
There you go.
I'm pretty just average, but guitar, bass, banjo, mandolin. I play the bouzouki, the belelaka, and the sitar. Kind of the things that I play most often.
Have you ever messed around with a pedal steel?
Yes, I love it.
I do
Not
too.
good at it.
Okay.
Not good at all. Okay,
What
just-
is the difference between playing that as a stringed instrument? Everything you named was a stringed instrument, and I understand why, because I can play mandolin and I can't play banjo, but I can play bass and guitar and a little bit of drums. I can keep like 3 beats.
Yeah.
But I understand how all the other instruments worked. What is the difference when you lay it flat and now you have pedals to operate? Is it more
Well-
like a piano?
The 8 strings, most of them have 8 strings.
Okay.
And the tuning is generally to a chord. So there's some simplicity here. It's really more about the pedals, working the pedals right.
Okay.
And I could never get a good feel for that.
I've been watching Slash's journey on Instagram. I don't know if you have,
I
but
have not.
that's an instrument he's
Slash.
been learning to play for the last several years while they've been out on this massive tour, you know, the reunion thing.
Yeah.
He's spending his downtime, you know, because he quit drinking and smoking and doing drugs. So now his downtime is spent. He packs this thing and sets it up in every motel room, or, you know, in their case, hotel rooms that they're in.
Slash is, I love that. Okay. If you ever analyze that song, it's a D chord.
I never thought about that. You're right. It is.
Yeah. Even the lead.
Oh, interesting.
But it's so tasteful.
Yeah. Yeah. Slash is a genius.
It goes back to what you said way back in the beginning. It's not what you're playing, it's how you're
How you
playing.
play it.
How you're
right?
playing it. Yeah.
BB King could say more with one note than most shredders could say with 50, right?
Yeah. That's right. BB King played 13 riffs his entire career.
Really?
Okay. I've actually graphed them for my students to show
Oh,
them.
right on.
But he never played them the same way twice.
Because it was all about how he felt at that moment in time.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, I just listen to his version of "Dust My Broom" versus "Sweet Little Angel." He uses the same riff, but his phrasing is so different in each one. Phrasing is everything. Eric Clapton is a master of phrasing.
Yeah.
Nobody phrases better than Eric.
Slow hand. Slow hand.
And that's one thing that I always,
Yeah,
you know, I don't brag myself up much, but that's one thing. I don't have a lot of technical ability and I don't have all the tools that a lot of schooled musicians do. But the one thing that I did have was a great singer songwriter and the ability to make people feel what I was feeling at that moment in time as
Yeah.
well. You know, I know how to bend
and
that
that's
note to
really what
make
it's all
it
about.
hit you right. You know,
yeah.
obviously because I got compliments from this guy all the time. So that was my audience.
Yeah.
Well, and
Tim
the other people
Renwick
in the band and the crowds, and
is one of
No,
my
but
favorite
ultimately, you're the one
musicians,
that had to
artists.
sing to my music
Sure.
in the end,
Sure.
right? So,
Sure.
in the beginning, you were my audience.
Yeah. Yeah. What did you just
Yeah.
mention, Joseph? Something about somebody named
Oh,
Tim?
yeah, Tim Renwick. He was a guitar player for the song Year of the Cat, the electric guitar,
Okay.
but he was also played the flute and saxophone for Pink Floyd.
Oh,
And he toured with the Hollies as the piano player.
wow.
But he played drums for Peter Gabriel.
Right
Wow.
on.
The guy does like freaking everything. Okay.
Cool.
They asked him one time, and I actually originally had another point to all that, and it just flew. Oh, so do you remember the song "Hey and Heavy"? He's my brother.
Yeah.
I remember the title of it. I remember the name of it, but I don't remember the song.
Okay. The piano player on that was not Tim Renwick. It was Elton John.
Oh,
Wow.
Tim Renwick and he heard a guy in another studio playing, and he went, "Hey, what are you doing right now?" Guy's like, "Well, nothing. I'm waiting. Well, come on back here." And he showed him the song. Play this.
yeah.
This, and said that was the sound that he wanted. It wasn't important that Tim played it.
Right.
It was important that the song sounded right.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I hope that I'm that because I think no, I can do it.
I took that lesson away from Eddie Van Halen. He said it 100 years ago. He says you got 7 notes, 8 if you count the octave, right? How you mess
Yeah,
them up is your business. If it sounds good, it is good.
it is good.
Basically, what you
Yeah.
said earlier, theory is a roadmap. There's no problem with learning it, but that's not going to make you play with emotion, right? It's not going to
Right.
make you. It's not going to make you have the ability to portray what you're feeling out to your audience.
Yeah.
Those are the people that make everybody calls AC/DC the most simplistic band ever. Go try and play that, right?
Yeah.
It's not as easy as it
Simplistic
looks.
yeah, simplistic doesn't mean easy.
No, it means that you're
And
allowing it to breathe.
yeah, yeah. And so, some of the simplest things in the world are hard to get right.
Yeah. I always tell
Amen to
people
that.
it's way harder to play slow than it is fast.
It is harder to play slow. That's why I make all my students play slow.
Thank you.
Practice slow.
You just proved my point. I consider myself a decent teacher, but coming from you, when I say things like that and somebody reiterates it, it gives me hope that I was doing the right thing all along, right? Because to me, it is way harder to play slow. You got to wait for the beat to come around all the time.
Right. And you have to be more dynamic. Dynamics are a big thing. Talk about Eddie Van Halen. Eddie Van Halen even thought about pick direction.
Yep.
Oh,
Go back and listen to Running with the Devil. Bam, bam, ba-da-dam, bam, bam, bam. The way he uses his pick. And I always kind of knew that, but I heard him talking about that. He said, you got to think about these things.
His right hand was very percussive. He
Yeah.
thought about it like a drummer.
Yep, exactly. And some of the best guitar players started off as drummers.
I wanted to be a drummer, but my ability to do so, my wanting to do so far outweighed my ability to do so. That's what I always tell people.
Yeah, yeah. When I first heard the Beatles, I told my mother I wanted a drum kit. And she goes, "Well, just ask Father Christmas." And I did. You know what I got that Christmas?
a drum kit.
A harmonica.
Oh, because Father Christmas didn't want the noise.
I'm guessing so. But I still play harmonica. So,
Right on. That's funny.
Yeah, we might hit you up for that when we try and recreate the song that you're going to hear at the beginning.
oh,
Yeah,
great.
free man, free man.
Yeah, yeah. I will drive all the way out to Arizona to do it.
Well,
It'd probably be in Illinois.
Illinois. Okay, I can go to
Yeah,
Illinois.
yeah, yeah.
it's the digital age, man. I'm
It's the
sure
digital
we can
age,
figure
man.
out how to make it happen.
yeah, yeah.
Ebony and Ivory was recorded in 2 different studios. They even filmed it in 2 different studios.
Well, and a lot of because we talked about Guns N' Roses a little bit. A lot of what the Use Your Illusions albums were filmed in pieces, right? Like
Right.
they weren't even talking to each other at the time.
Yeah.
Correct.
And then you had COVID hit, and so many bands were recording their pieces at home, and then digitally, recording it, then emailing it to the next member of the band to do their part and piece it all together. And then they just the beautiful thing about technology is they can just put it all together and create this one magnificent sound.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
And, I did a lot of that. I recorded a lot of my stuff in one studio,
yeah.
went over to Lewis's, finished up there. Uh, in fact, on the Shades of Blues album, all the Hammond B3 organ, I recorded at Church Studios.
Oh,
That's
So,
awesome.
and actually, the song Spike from the Rescue to Refuge album,
mm-hmm.
I had the song and I wanted a Hammond B3, shipped it on over to Church Studios, sat on their Hammond B3,
Really
I
played
love
it
that
out.
sound.
Yeah,
nice,
me too. It's a great sound.
That is so
nice.
rock and roll. And
So,
if people at home don't know what that is, you can think a lot of REO Speedwagon is loaded with Hammond
Oh,
B3.
that
oh
is a
yeah,
great example. Good
Yeah.
job, Mike. Because sometimes I feel like we talk over people's heads, so that was an outstanding example. Because you
Yeah,
can
got
I automatically can hear RO Speedwagon in my head now.
yeah.
yeah,
When it's not the piano,
Yeah,
it's
it's the
the
organ.
Hammond B3.
Right
yeah,
on. That's cool. That's such a big instrument too. It's such a great, and not big, but I mean sound wise, it fills the space.
yeah. By the way, in the world of coolness, I'm a
Mm-hmm.
big Dan Fogelberg fan also.
Oh, good for
Okay.
you. Me too.
Okay, I got to play on it. Church Studios has his grand piano,
Oh,
and I
nice.
got to play his grand piano when we recorded the song "Gloomy Sunday."
That's awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah, so so
Yeah.
if you listen to the Shades of Blues album, that's and I was nervous when I started playing on that thing because I'm going, Dan Fogelberg's fingers have been here.
Yeah, probably the song that people would know from Dan Fogelberg first and foremost would be longer for sure, right?
Yeah, oh yeah,
Mm.
yeah, with Glenn Frey singing background and Joe Walsh playing guitar, Russ Kunkel on percussion.
I did not know Joe Walsh played guitar on that album
Yeah,
or on that
yeah,
song, excuse me.
yep,
Well,
That's awesome.
yeah,
well, the Eagles were a backup band forever with Linda Ronstadt, so I wouldn't be surprised if they're all kinds of studio musicians or
oh,
session musicians.
True
back
story.
back in the day, people
Mm-hmm.
would be in the studio and say, "Hey, you're doing that? Can I set in? Can I do this?"
Yeah,
They
there
were
wasn't
always
all
Yeah.
these publishing rights and I did this and you did
Right.
that and they weren't fighting
Yeah.
about that. They were trying to do what was right for the music back then.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
they would
Well, we
all
had
have
we had like yeah, like Mike mentioned earlier, we had a gentleman on named Lemoyne Alexander who's hip hop producer. Now he's doing his own rock and roll thing. But same thing, he just incorporated all different kinds of things when he was doing his producing thing, just because to make it sound better and to create a better space filling for the music. And there wasn't all the nonsense of, oh, you can't. And he was approached by so many fantastic artists to work with, and some of them he just said no to because he didn't want to like crush his opinion of that artist because they were such a high level, right?
yeah,
Which I think is cool, but also I would have like jumped at those chances. But it's indicative of the respect you have for musicians at your level that have made this a career, and you want to be involved, but you want to make sure it's involved for the right reasons.
yeah.
Making
I
the
tell you, it's sometimes scary meeting some of these people
I can see that.
um, because they're not the people you want them to be.
Right?
True
Um,
story.
Yeah.
yeah,
We encountered that too.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool,
Yeah.
cool stories though, and I always like the happy story.
Sure.
Okay, um, uh, Noki Edwards was the guitar player for the Ventures,
Okay.
and I was at the NAMM show working with Morgan Guitars, and we were doing this little round robin playing. This guy walks up and he goes, "Hey, do you guys mind if I sit in with you?" And I recognize him because I'm a big fan. Because yeah, sure, we're just all having a little fun here, and he sits in, and we ran around a couple times. He didn't play any lead, just played the rhythm. He goes, "No, I'm okay." Third time around, he played. He did not play over a single one of us.
Wow.
And I asked him about that later. I said, "Man, you could have burned us all to the ground." I walked up to him later, away from the other guy. I said,
Yeah.
"Man, you're Noki Edwards. I know who you are.
Yeah.
You could have burned us all to the ground." He goes, "Nah, man, I just wanted to have some fun. You guys were
Yeah.
fun. You guys were good. I had a good time, man. Thank you for letting me do." It was just so grateful and appreciative.
I love those stories
Yeah,
because the guy that taught me to play guitar was the same way. He could sit in with anybody and he would make you look stupid if, you had some kind of attitude or whatever, but he taught me two lessons that I never forgot. He always said there's always someone better than you.
yeah,
Don't ever forget that. And well, three valuable lessons. The second one was always play for the song, right? You're
Right.
not the star of the show unless you're the star of the show. So know your role. If you're in a band, you're playing for the song, serve the song.
Right.
And the third and probably the most valuable lesson was you can learn anything from anyone, right? Don't ever think that you're here and they're there
Oh, yeah.
because they're going to do something down here that you wouldn't have paid attention to. And that really came to serve me when I was teaching people in Arizona. Some of the students would just do things accidentally that you'd be like, hey, do that again, you know? And then they would get excited because then they're teaching you something.
Yeah. Larry Carlton talks about, Larry does those ghost bends where he bends and rolls in the
I love
volume.
those. I love those.
Me too. So they were doing the Simon and Simon soundtrack, and he does that for a warm up. He'll do scales that way. And Tommy Tedesco comes running over to him. What did you do? What did you do? Show me that. Show me that. And Larry showed him. He goes, I taught Tommy Tedesco something.
That's awesome.
How crazy is that? And now I got to play with Larry at the Baked Potato shortly after I graduated college. And oh my goodness, you want to talk about a humiliating moment in my life? We're just doing a little blues thing, and it came to me, and I just froze. I just didn't know what to do. Larry nursemaided me through some changes to get me comfortable so I could play.
That's fun.
That's a nice guy.
And see,
Absolutely.
here's this. This is the power of music. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter what level you are. It doesn't matter how good you are or how bad you are. You all have all musicians have something in common. It's a weird, dynamic, drama-filled family,
Yeah.
right? But it's a common ground. Just like you can walk up to a stranger who's wearing a T-shirt from some NFL team, and you can instantly spark up a conversation just based on that shirt that he's wearing because it's
Right.
relevant to their life.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with musicians. You can go to a show, doesn't matter if it's 3 people in a bar or 50,000 people. You can connect with a musician just because of the sheer fact you're there enjoying something that you have a common element on, regardless of who you are, where you come from, what you look like. It's music, man.
Well-
It connects people.
That's something that you said that resonated with me, and it's still rattling around in my head. Those are experiences that we've had collectively that no one else on this planet will ever understand. We can explain to them
Yeah.
what standing in front of people is like, what playing
Right.
in a band is like, but you don't know it unless you've been there.
Exactly.
Hey, come here a second. Hey, I'm going to introduce you guys to one of my students.
Okay, right on.
Awesome.
This is the guy that I was abusing his grace today. So hey,
What's up, man?
introduce yourself. Say hi. to
Somehow I
these
got balloons going.
guys. I didn't do the balloons thing.
No, I did.
No, I did
Inadvertently.
that somehow.
So these are the guys that I'm talking to today. Yeah.
I get in line.
Yeah,
Well,
get in line. Yeah, we're gonna wrap
Oh,
this
no,
up,
no,
Joseph. So you can get on with your day, man.
So
This has been such a treat having you on, man. Mike was so excited that we got to finally connect with you and get you on the show, man. I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule and your day to
man,
grace
guys,
us
it
with
has
your
been, it has
presence.
been a blast.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
We definitely want to have you back, man.
Yes,
Yeah. And
yes.
I will be, I'd love to. And I will set the link up on I invited my friends to watch this
Okay.
thing, so, and I'm gonna send it out again, and we're going to put it up on my different Facebook pages.
And I will send you a private message when the episode drops. Like when I
Yeah.
release the RSS feed and he drops it on YouTube, I'll send you a private message
Yeah.
that way too.
Excellent.
Yeah, and you
Yeah,
can
yeah,
find
but-
you can tell people where they can find you and all your stuff again, please.
Okay. Facebook, Joseph Glaude Music. I'm on Spotify, Apple Music. I'm in all the streaming audio. You name it, just Google search my name, YouTube, whatever.
Spell your name for people, please.
JOESFGLAUDE.
Thank you.
There you go.
Yeah. So I appreciate you guys. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you for
Absolutely,
doing
man.
it for us,
Thank-
man.
Thank you as well. And we wrap every show up with this: don't let the bad days win. If you're feeling sad, you're feeling depressed, reach out to somebody that you know you can trust and talk to, because you don't want to leave a hole in somebody's heart tomorrow morning if you don't wake up. Somebody loves you. Somebody always will. So be mindful of that. We love all of you for listening to us and checking us out on YouTube and all the different platforms. Everybody have a fantastic day. Again, thank you, Joseph, very much. You're an
Joseph.
amazing human. We appreciate you being on. Tell your lovely bride we said hello and rock.
I will do that.
Heavy metal all the way.
Right on. Right on, brother. Love you, man.
Love you too.
All right. Have a great day, Joseph.
Love you guys too, man. Thanks a lot.
Hey, you
Peace.
too, man.
Hey,
Peace.
good day.